Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the layout. So, doing a little more vertic here, and what I decided to do, you can see from the last video, I took down the bench work that was kind of cobbled up for the engine service area because I need to work back here. So, decided to go ahead and fix this issue here. This has been here for a while. It was out of gauge because the darn Railcraft rail, which I've had this happen several times. I don't know if I'll be able to show it, but it comes out of the ties on curves, and it had done it on this piece. I'm trying to find where it was, but it was just enough out of the ties to cause a slight wide gauge there. So a couple, not everything, but certain things would derail there. And then I took a new piece and cut it, and it did the same darn thing. So I said, all right, you've had your chance, microengineering. I put a piece of Pico track in. A little more robust, I think. And it's tough on the curves like that to get things lined up right, but it should be okay. The Pico track doesn't match perfectly, but again, this is going to be kind of back. You know, I'm going to have all the engine terminal area here, so to me it's more important that works well and stays in gauge, as opposed to being a perfect match. I don't think you'll notice it. So that's been done, drying up, and I'll get that soldered in and get it painted to match. In here I did a little more hacking on the plywood, again because this is all afterthought, so to speak. These things I'm going to relegate to using the ties for filling. Making stuff aggravates me. Sorry. I digress. So I did some cutting here because this plywood piece was a little bit too big, so I had to do some notching with a jigsaw and whatnot. So now I'm going to try to fit in, because what I want to make sure I do, basically a 2x4 piece, but I'm going to have to notch it like this because I can't cut back into here without getting it into the track, and I'm not going to, I don't want to disturb that if at all possible. So I'll have to do some notching in the 2x4 piece that I wanted to be all one piece for the turntable, because I'm going to cut like a 16-inch diameter hole in it, and it's 3/4 ply, so I wanted it to be one piece. I could have left this here and notched it further out, but then the hole kind of would have gone across one piece and into this piece, and it just made me a little nervous. You know, I want it to be nice and perfectly aligned and flat and sturdy for that turntable. So, but that's all cut, so that's pretty well set. So now I got to get some of the, like I said, I got to get the scenery done back here, at least far enough along that it looks, you know, 85–90%. I can always reach over and add trees later. That shouldn't be a huge deal. But I want to get a lot of that done before I actually put this benchwork in for real. And then I did get the south yard painted, kind of a darker color because it is a coal, you know, mostly a coal, and this is going to be engine terminal lead, so they'll be really gunked up once I get the rest of that in. So that's been painted. I got to clean the rails now. I did paint, if you remember, the main line's been painted, kind of a lighter color, a little more of that worn brownish color that you have on mainline rails, ties, I should say ties. Now they are concrete ties. It's not perfect, but I think the effect will be okay. You'd have to really come in and look and say, wait a minute, those are concrete ties, that's not right, your layout sucks, go away. But you know what, whatever. I think it blends in just fine. So all this has been painted. I'm verifying all the turnouts do indeed work. So now it looks a little more normal, I guess, with all the different colors. You know, the Pico ones were real dark, and some of the microengineering was old, some of it was new. The fast tracks, well, they all look like the wood tie stuff that you normally get with them. So overall, looking pretty good. It needs some cleanup, and then we'll get the ballast down, and a lot of these ties are actually going to be buried in the coal dust and cinders and filth and whatever. I did notice I got to go back and do some work back there because I forgot. But I still have the airbrush out and everything, so you can see the shiny spots that I have to kind of touch up. So once I get the airbrush back out to paint that new piece of Pico track, I'll bring it down here and touch up this stuff as well. So Alright, so a little bit of a in progress there. Time to get this all cleaned up. Probably give it a test again. And then get into that back corner and get that done so I can get the engine terminal bench work up. Hidely hodly. Alright, so we're back here. We're back in the corner now. And I figured I'd just kind of get my thoughts down here just for posterity. And for those of you maniacal enough to listen to me. Alright, so like I said, I have to get a lot of this done because of the bench work that's going to go in for the engine service area that'll block easy access to back here. So I want to get all this done. So plan A from outer space is have another building to put here. Nice tall 3D industrial building. It'll be along the backdrop right about to the end of this piece of Kirk. Right about here. And then I had the dang problem again of how do you, if you have a building coming in, how do you get scenery with the building and then this ugly gap here that I never should have done, but anyway, I gotta fix it. Alright, so here's what I'm gonna do. I ordered a building flat from Trackside Scenery. It looked pretty good. I'll give it a shot. It's about 7 5/8 tall. I'll run that from the end of the building somewhere. I'm not going to use all of it. The rest of it I'm probably going to use back in the factory. Or the main factory. And I don't know, maybe like somewhere here. And then maybe bring a retaining wall out this way. Perpendicular. Kind of like this. Maybe not that tall. And then bring the scenery up to cover. Now that will leave a little bit of an area. But I figured, so what? I mean, if I paint it, if I put some trees, shrubbery, and other scenery, so I probably can block that little triangle of death. Alright, so then what I'll do is probably come along in here, and since it's close, probably have like a rock cut, you know, some rock outcroppings, since it's so close. And then just kind of come back, hill, 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 hill. It gets real tight here, so again, another cut with a, you know, a rock casting back in there. And it gets a little bit more open, a little gradual coming through here. And then what I'm thinking at the moment, and you know, management reserves the right to change their damn mind, what I might do is come along here, kind of with a retaining wall, and maybe even have a short tunnel. I just think since it's so tight in here, that if I did that, it would kind of, you know, kind of flow from here, keep the scenery up, you know, bring the fascia up to match it, and then have retaining wall, and have eventually have that go to the scenery, and then over here be a, you know, slight hill starting to come up, maybe a wing wall, boom, and then a little tunnel, just a wee little lad from here to maybe about here, again to help hide the corner and disguise that. And so I got my stuff here, because then the track decides to curve back that way. So one moment, the phone's ringing. Alright, we're back. And then like I said, the main line's going to swing back there to the main factory, so I think it might work out well. That's the plan for now. I could go pure retaining wall along here, but I kind of like the idea of just coming down with you know, just a short tunnel. Maybe what, 1.5 feet, 2 feet, something like that. And then this area is all going to be engine terminal, roundhouse, back shop. You know, back behind that will be all the kind of the typical railroad, you know, junk and gnarly looking cool stuff that lays around the back of a roundhouse. Then kind of bring this up slowly, sloping up along thigh here, then up to this tunnel. So that's the initial plan. And you can see I got one little scrap piece of 2-inch foam. Some other scrap pieces laying around. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to buy another damn thing. I'm going to make this all happen with whatever I have. So I got that piece, these scrap pieces. I got some shaper sheet, which actually isn't bad. This stuff's really can be pretty useful. I got one full thing of plaster wrap, pretty useful, and that's it. Oh, and I got, you know, things like some knock, you know, rock castings. I have some other rock castings to put in there as well. So that's how it looks now, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to buy anything. I'm going to make it happen with scrap. So I have to let I found one more piece of track I wanted to remediate, so that's drying up. This piece is in, the new piece is in, painted, soldered. Looks nice. This is just gluing down a piece of cork to finish this end, which will probably be part of a parking lot truck turnaround area or something like that. I have some ideas for what I want to do here, but I'm not settled on it yet. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to hit this. We're going to get this done quickly. This really shouldn't take that long. I mean, doing base scenery is pretty darn simple. And then get that done, get it scenic, at least far enough along that I feel comfortable putting the bench work up. Because I guess if I have to reach over to put trees in, I can, because I don't have any trees. Well, I have some, but not enough. All right, so that's the plan for that corner. So we're going to give it heck, go for it, and hopefully get it looking presentable before too long. So we'll see. We'll see how things go, and we'll do some more videos once we get a little further along here. Okay, scenery is done. So here's an in progress. I got the foam cut, and since I'm using scrap pieces, it was a lot of cutting. Probably not the ideal way to do it, but I just don't feel like going to Home Depot and buying more. So it's in. Has to be glued, but it's pretty much in. And again, it's going to get a lot of forming and filling and other shenanigans going on. That's a shale rock outcropping right there at the very back. And there'll be more. I said I'm probably going to have some more rocks in here, and I can see, a couple spots. I'll put it there. Put some over here. Put some in there. And again, it's all going to be cut and smoothed out, and either go over with plaster cloth or the sculpt mold. Along here, I put in two pieces back to the backdrop in case I do want to go with a retaining wall, because what that does, since there's a gap there, it lets me get this retaining wall kind of exactly where I want it. So it'll fit pretty nice in there, and I can cut and form this and do the scenery. And I'm not as worried about any areas that aren't totally filled, because there's going to be trees, and look at the trees are going to be, yay tall. So once we get this all greened up, I think it'll look okay. So that is that. Time to get the foam glue out. Liquid nails for foam. Get it all secured. And so then the next step will be to come in and get the sculpt the mold, plaster cloth, etc. Smooth it out. Well, first do a lot of shaping, though that gets messy. Get the rasp out and all that kind of fun stuff, and get the shapes done. And then get the base stuff in and get some rocks added here and there. So, all right, enough babbling. Back to work here in our pink empire. Okay, here's the initial carve. It's set up overnight with the weights, and I decided to get this side in here, so that's setting up for the possible retaining wall. So I'll let that glue up for a little bit, and then I did just the initial pass, starting to shape this. It's not anywhere near done yet, but this kind of helps me think about it, start to visualize things. That's not in just yet. I had to do some carving to make it fit. So you can see it's kind of sloped a little bit. And you start to notice where, at least I do, where I'm probably going to put some additional rocks. Rocks here, here. I can see it. Here, here. Probably a larger one, like they did a cut along here, because it's a little close to the tracks. Then I have my retaining wall cut, not installed yet, because I need to do a lot of shape in there. And what I did for the initial pass, I just used the Woodland Scenics wire foam cutter. This is a good tool. I like this. Now, you're limited to what you can do with a straight wire. Again, there's certain areas like right here, I can't quite get it. I'd like to go like that, but I can't quite get it because of the backdrop. So I'll take some other tools, either a rasp or something like that. But once you start getting into the rasps and even some knives and whatnot, it gets a little bit messier. This was nice and clean and relaxing. This to me actually is relaxing. I like doing tortoises. All right, so that's that. Now we got to get into the messier stage of it, and then start forming it. Again, get some of the plaster cloth. There are areas that are going to need plaster cloth, like right here. See, there's a gap in there, so we'll get some plaster cloth in there and seal it up. And you can also use that to, like if I didn't want to put a rock there, plaster cloth would smooth that out, so it looked like a hill. So there's a lot of options once you get into this phase, and just gotta kind of get creative and let it go. So that's that, and we will get back to work here on this end of the layout. Okay, we're going in. We're going in with the plaster and the plaster cloth, eh? Alright, so there it's been kind of formed. You can see I got some additional rock things set in there. I did get some shaping done with the old rasp and the Handy Shareform shaver. I don't know if that has a more official name, but that's what that's on it. So you can see I got those in as well. Formed the hill there a little bit. Now I'm going to go back with the sculpt the mold, fill in all these areas, and actually cover up, you know, some of those rocks as well. I found some more darn remedial track poppage I had to fix. So just a real quick view, and I got this shaped a little bit smoother going back. That piece is going to go right in here, but I want to get the plaster cloth in to seal, or to kind of close off that gap. Probably do something with that as well. And then with the sculpt mold, I'll set that in and seal it in and get it sit in there, and then start working the other areas. I know it looks kind of hokey now, but I think by the time I get the next bit, you'll see it's going to look a lot better. Okay, let's get at it. Let's get this done. Okie dokies. Scoop the mold, round one. See, I call it scoop again. It's sculpt the mold. I know I'll get chastised by someone. So I got it all kind of worked in. See, I got that little casting worked in there and worked in up there. It didn't look slopey enough, so I added some more and kind of sloped it a little bit more. Take out some of the obvious flat spots. A little boulder kind of buried in there. And that's been worked in. I added a couple more here and there, just whatever I felt like doing. And these two were kind of worked in. I got the retaining walls worked in. And this retaining wall here is also in. And got that worked up, sloped up. So that is that. I'll just marinate overnight. Then we'll be back to do some final tests. I have been testing it with these two here, Mr. Grand Trunk and Mr. Southern Pacific. I figured if these cars clear, then anything I'm going to run is probably going to clear. So it was close. Thanks to those cars, I had to cut out and push that retaining wall back a little bit, or it would have cleared, but it was real close. All right, so like I said, let this stew overnight. Oh my goodness, what happened there? And then get back tomorrow, maybe see how it looks. Get some paint down, the initial layer of paint, which will really change the way it looks. And keep forging ahead. All right, more to come, folks. More to come. All right, just a quick in-prog here. I got some additional plaster on. What I did was, well, I say I painted some of it kind of a tan color just to kind of help me visualize things. And I used plaster of Paris for some of these rocks in here. You notice in here it's kind of rocky. I didn't know it turned that tan color. I never used it before. All right, anyway, so you can see I kind of went in and added some details for rocks. At least I hope it looks like that. Now it's not painted yet, but I wanted to kind of add some more on top of the sculpt mold, and added some actual more rocks, you know, like in there, without doing actual castings and trying to work them in and that kind of fun stuff. And then along here, I just did some more details of rocks. At least I hope it looks like rocks. We'll see when I get it done and painted and blend it all together. That's the next big step, is to paint it. I started sprinkling some ground foam here, so nah, the heck with it, I'll just come back and do it later. What I normally do is just put it right into the paint, use it as a base layer, and then on top of that, I tend to use either like Hecky Wildgrass, Deco Grass, Silphorm Math, something like that, so the color of the ground foam doesn't really matter. It just if there's any bare areas, there's something to show through. So alright, so that's that. I'm going to let this plaster set up. It's just got it done, and man, you can noodle around this forever trying to carve rocks, but I'm no geologist, so hopefully it's geologically pleasing when I get done. And then we'll work it in. Like I said, here's the idea I'm thinking of for a portal tunnel there. Not sure, just thinking about it. Yeah, I left this white. I might want to do some more rocks in here. I'm not sure how far I'm going to bring down the retaining wall. So just for now, I just kind of left that alone. But that is that. At least we're getting there. Like I said, what I really have to get done, right here's the mark where my new bench work's going to be. So basically from here over to, you know, that 90-degree quadrant, I won't be able to reach. So I need to get that done and get track ballasted and all that kind of good stuff. Get the scenery done. So alright, so we'll come back when I get these rocks painted up. I didn't show what I did because I had no idea what I was doing. And I figured I'm not going to show a video of me just messing around and having no idea what I'm doing. So I'm hoping it works out okay. But anyway, so we'll come back when we get things painted up, and hopefully this looks more like rocks. Okay, here's some more in progress back here. This is the rock area. Well, I got it kind of painted up here. I guess it's looking better. You'll notice I did the other stuff is now a green color because that's what I normally use, and I had found this is the tan stuff I use. I think I just grabbed it at Lowe's, and I knew I had some darker green that I prefer, and I didn't know where it was. And I'm looking through a drawer today, and oh, there it is. So alright, so I just came over and painted it green because to me it kind of helps blend and helps me visualize things even better than the tan. Either color is fine, but I just, you know, I hadn't done scenery in a while and I'm finding stuff all over the place. Alright, so what I did back here, and I kind of knew this may be an issue because I did start out, pardon my quick pan here, usually I use the Woodland Scenics, the pigments, stone gray, I think I have a slate gray, a black, and these are good. These work well, in my experience, with the Hydrocal, you know, the Woodland Scenics Hydrocal stuff. Well, I didn't use that back here. I actually used, for most of it, where is it? There it is! Plaster of Paris, the cheap stuff by DAP that I bought at Lowe's. I was going to use Hydrocal, but didn't. Just I don't know why. I just grabbed this and went with it. So I did try initially to use the pigments. They don't work that well. Not on. I found, like in my experience, they don't work as well on like Plaster of Paris, the Sculpt the Mold, and they really didn't work well on these, which are, they're actually kind of a foam material. That block in there, although it's a little harder to tell now because I did kind of get to it. This one here, what it really is, you can pardon me as I walk backwards, and I mean, they're really meant to make molds. It's a foam material similar to this. This is from Scenic Express. There's the item number for this one. And what you're really supposed to do is make a mold out of that. And actually, another thing I found when I was looking through, I actually have the stuff, the rubber compound to make molds. So, guess I could have done that too. It's like Christmas here in March. But what I was able to do was use some other materials to get the colors. So I said, well, you know what? Let me try some of these Vallejo acrylic washes. Maybe they'll work okay. They did. They worked fine. They worked relatively good on the plaster of Paris stuff. Not really so much on these foam ones. Just kind of beat it up, and it was okay, but didn't really work that well. So it didn't work on that, as I pan, and on that piece there. So what I did for that, so what I did for these foam pieces is use just some acrylic paints diluted with water, different colors. Let's see, I used a neutral gray, a medium gray, I used a little burnt umber, and a little burnt sienna. And then mixed them in containers, diluted them. I don't know what ratio, I just kind of diluted them. And then started putting stuff on. And it kind of did blend things in a little bit better. And I guess you have to go back and look at the other segments, but I do remember that, you know, this area here was a lighter gray, really kind of stood out. That here was still a little bit darker, still a little bit darker, but I don't know if you can tell, there's some highlights of the burnt and the raw sienna on that. And then I did touch up. These are actually Hydrocal, so they worked okay. You know, they took that one there. They took the Walthers, the Woodland Scenics pigments okay. And for this big one, it's basically the acrylic paints thinned into a wash and the Vallejo acrylic washes on it. That worked really nice. And you can see, I like it personally. I used this one color. It's really good. I recommend you consider getting this if you're going to try anything. This is their blue gray. 76.524. It's like I said, their model wash. They say it's for gray armor, but this color, this blue-gray color, I find really useful. It's almost like grimy black. You know, just one of those things that you can just use nearly everywhere. So I used that throughout there. I did lighten that one a little bit, and if you're trying to, again, it was really dark, but I lightened that with some of the, I think I used the Vallejo stuff there, and then highlighted with some of the acrylic paint. I did touch these rocks a little bit. So, overall, I think it's looking good. Again, I don't know how well, the light's not great back here in this corner, so I'm not sure how well this is going to pick up. But you can see, to me, it's starting to look a lot better. Kind of blended together now. Now you can tell it's rock. I'm not sure my carving in all of this in the areas is perfect, but I think once I get it, you know, more scenic and get some ground foam, some tufts and weeds and other paraphernalia in there, I think it'll look okay. So that's kind of where that is. I did do some washes on the retaining walls on that one, and that one to kind of help blend them in. This one, that's a little different material. They're all by Knock, but this one didn't take the stuff as well. So I might come back and do some remedial work on that. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm letting this kind of set up and, you know, kind of walking away to, you know, let it percolate for a while. What I definitely will do is come back and dry brush, which will really, really make things look good, I think. When you dry brush, it's amazing. It's such a simple, easy technique. Really can improve the look. I'll probably use the chalk white that I prefer. Although any, you know, kind of, I don't like to use white. I like to use like an off-white, an ivory, almond. Chalk white is the one by Vallejo that I prefer. So I'll do that, see how things look, and then start to get the, you know, the other scenery stuff up on there. Get stuff back in here. Oh, right in here, I just remembered. I did try something. Let's see if I get my shadow out of the way. The color isn't perfect, but I wanted to try it. What that is, that's Vallejo earth texture. I've used the black lava for certain things, especially for roof textures on buildings. But this is their brown earth. It's got a nice gritty type texture. It's an acrylic paste. You can mix that with acrylic paints and whatnot and get different colors. But I really just kind of want to try right in here. There's this little area here where it's going to be some earth. I'll let it set up, and then you can always, paint it later. I just want to kind of see how it looks, how the texture is once you get it down and spread out. As I don't think that color is ideal. But if I like it, then I can mix different colors with it. So, all right. So that is how things are looking. You tell me, does it look okay? Is it geologically pleasing? Again, I'm not sure all these rocks would be like this. I know I've got kind of different types of rocks all kind of mixed here, but whatever. It's just a model railroad, man. So, we'll get this, let it set for a while. Let me see how I think. I'll go back and work on some at the workbench and then come back and do some dry brushing. I think things toned down and mixed a lot better. So right now I'm pretty happy with it. And then we'll do some additional work. Try to get this area, at least, I said I don't have any trees, so I can't do a whole lot. Because all of this will have trees all up in here. And this might have some, definitely have a lot of trees up on there. But I don't have a lot, so that's going to have to wait. But I want to get this 95% done so I can get this other bench work in and start working the engine service area and that kind of fun stuff. And one other thing I did, and then I promise I'll shut up. I did all of the chippings that came out of the carving. I saved them because you need some of the fallen and the loose rock that always falls down. So these are I shouldn't have touched it. They're kind of wet because I used some of the leftover acrylic paint, poured it in a jar where I had these, and now I'm just going to let this dry, and then hopefully they'll look okay. Maybe not. We'll see. But I mean, I do have some Woodland Scenics talus, but that stuff looks, to me, it looks too fine, too round. And this stuff I wanted it to be the more broken up, pieces of rock that fall off the rock face. So we'll see how that works out. That's going to dry up for a little bit. And then, like I said, so far so good, I think. And we'll get back and get some more work done back here. Okay, I'm going to try to show this because this is, to me, like I said, I'm dry brushing now, and it really, really has a huge impact, I think. I'm going to try to show it. I don't know how well it'll show up on this one piece right here. Now the area over here, I hit it with some dry brushing. I did a little bit down below. This area here is not yet done, so I'm going to go do it and then come back and we'll see if you can see the difference. It really, really, it's such an awesome technique. I did pretty much along here. This one here has been dry brushed, and again, if you again, it's subtle. You're not painting. You guys know what dry brushing is, but you just want a dry brush with a little bit of paint, and you just waft it over the high points. Especially on rock, it really makes it look cool, I think. So I don't know how well it shows up because this is not the most professional lighting arrangement, but I even did that retaining wall. Again, it's subtle. It's not something that it's not like you paint an undecorated locomotive and you put the final paint on it. Like, wow, it's more like, that looks pretty good. Why does it look so good? That's the effect you're going for. So let's see if this works. Again, this area here is somewhat done. This area is not, and I'll come back and see if we can see a difference. Okay, I don't know how well it'll show up, but now it's dry brushed. I actually went back and did some more on the left hand side too. And unfortunately, I guess I don't know, over the lighting it might not show up, but it just, I don't normally tell people what to do, but this is one of those techniques that you almost, You almost have to do it. Of course, you don't have to do anything, but to me, it really, really improves the look. And I don't know if you can, it's just see how it kind of brought out the edges of the rocks, the edges here, obviously, over here, and these. And now it looks like rock, where before it kind of looked like painted foam. So that's the results of that. I just wanted to kind of show it. Unfortunately, I don't know it's going to show up very well. Maybe further back. And again, it's subtle. It's not to be a huge, huge change. It's just enough to make it go from, hey, nice, to, wow, looks good. At least in my opinion. You might think this looks terrible, which is fine. But okay, so that's that. That's dry brushing. Something you really ought to consider adding to your techniques. And there's the paint I used. It's Vallejo Chalk White 73.006. This is also kind of my favorite concrete color. It's kind of an off-white color. But again, you don't have to use this. You can use, I would use like a gloss white or something like that. You want to use, to me, you're better off with a color like that. Like I said, an off-white, an ivory, what other names do they have for me? Something like that. Almond, something like that. You certainly could use white too if you wanted to. It's just, this is a little more subdued. So, alright. Enough on that. Just something that I like enough to, just wanted to highlight that dry brushing. You can do it on anything. I mean, this technique is great. It's for scenery, rocks, rolling stock, structures, brick, siding, roofs, your track. You can come back and do it on the track too. When you get that done, that really improves the look. So it's a pretty versatile, fun technique. Now, you will ruin a brush, most likely. It is pretty tough, especially this kind of, when you're doing stuff like that. You're going to go through a brush, but that's cool. It's definitely worth it, so, in my humble opinion. Alrighty, I'm going to, wrap this up. I did not realize this video had gotten that long. I guess I really was blabbing on this one. I know it's not a how-to, and I just kind of showed you the steps and the results, but I really didn't know what I was doing, to be honest. This is the it's been such a long time, and the first time I'd done some of this stuff, so I didn't want to make a how-to or a how-we, more appropriately, because I don't make how-to videos, because who am I to tell you what to do? Alright, anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, because if I keep going, this video will be freaking 9 hours long. This is the final where I'm going to stop. It's been, dry brushed, which I just covered. I did come back and go back a little bit. I added some green. I used some more of the washes. They really kind of work nice for this. I used some of the darker green down below where it's kind of, less sunlight and whatnot, and mixed in with some khaki brown and some other colors, so you can kind of see how that looks down below. Now this obviously is not done yet. This still needs a lot of work. And things will start to blend a little bit better once I start getting some of the ground cover on, and bushes, shrubs, and tufts, and all the other fine, and the ballast on the track back in this corner here. Alright, so that's it. So I'm going to get this up. What I have to do next is, obviously work over here, but before I can do too much more, I have to get the one building in here that I'm building, the backdrop building in there, then put the lot in here. You can see I got a mess here, so I got to figure out what I'm going to do with that area, because again, all that's got to kind of be done, because then the next major step is adding the bench work, which is somewhere in here. So obviously, I can't reach to get back there, so there's still a lot to do. But like I said, I didn't realize this video had gotten so long, so I'm gonna wrap it up, get it up, maybe call it a part 1 or something like that. I don't know, or just whatever. Just a longer update than I expected. I'm just doing the darn scenery here at the end, but getting there, Alright, so let's get back to work. I'll get this done, get it up. For the 2 or 3 people that might want to watch it, they can go through and watch what I did here. And then I'll get back to work on trying to get this area finished up.